and fuckery.
What's up? What's up?
Jay Curtis Strickland here, TNF. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Click on that little bell for notifications. Today with us on TNF, we have a special guest. This is Richie. He was a guitar player, or currently is a guitar player in Wisdominchains. Played in Krutch. What's going on, man? How you doing today?
Not bad, man. Just got in from work. Now I'm talking to you, so it's all good.
Nice. What do you do for a job?
I work for, I'm in the concrete union in New York City, local 18A, and I do concrete, anything from, sidewalks, high rises, machine pads, anything to do with concrete, we do it.
Oh, nice, man. Now, were you affected by that at all whenever COVID was happening? Work increase, decrease?
Well, when everything shut down, yeah, like New York was dead. But once everything was allowed, as they say, allowed to be back, we were right back to work.
Right on. Now, has that kind of affected your ability to play with the band, like your job? Are they pretty lenient as far as like what's going on with they give you time off and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm a union guy. I've been with the same company for like over 20 years. So if we have a tour, I give them a heads up a few months ahead of time, and they know the deal. I don't have like a vacation. If I don't work, I don't get paid. You know what I mean? So
Right.
They don't give a fuck. Take off whatever you want to take off. Just give us a heads up. So yeah, it works out.
Now, I didn't know that Wisdominchains originally started as a collaboration with some overseas hardcore dudes.
Yeah, a guy. He was in a band called Daredevil. Martin, he had the idea. He originally wanted to do, a collaboration with some American bands, and it was supposed to be Aaron from Death Threat was going to be on vocals. And he flew over to, he had some songs written. He wanted to record some over here. And Aaron didn't work out, so Joe got in the mix, but he actually flew over. He landed on September 11th, 2001 in New York, earlier than earlier than the incident, though. I was actually at work at the time, and he was at my house before I even got home. I got home like the next day because I was ended up being like right in the middle of all that stuff. But yeah, he flew in that date, but he just missed it. I think he landed like 7:05 a.m. or something like that, and then just headed to PA.
Insane.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to do any sort of work whenever 9/11 hit?
Yeah, I was when it happened, I was working right by Washington Square Park. It's like around West 4th Street. I saw the first plane hit. Everything was crazy. And then, it was a long, crazy day, of course. And when I eventually went back to work, I worked at a job called 90 Church Street, which is a real old post office, but it's right next to the World Trade Center. And our company was actually had the job of getting there was landing gear stuck in the roof on 90 Church Street, and we were chipping it out. And once we chipped it out, there was like, agents and this and that and people to, take it as evidence. But it was a paid job for me, but a lot of the other people within that area were like volunteers. That was where all the volunteer work was going on,
Oh my God. How long did you have to do that for?
That was when we went back, we did that for 3 days, and then we did other jobs on 90 Church Street, like in the building itself, repairs and stuff. That building was shaken up, but it's like, it's not a high rise or anything like that. It's maybe 4 or 5 floors. Really big though, like a city block, but it took like a lot of some structural damage, and we were just working on that. But that was like, that was a contract job. I wasn't even though I was in the limits of where everything was going on, you know, most people in there were volunteering, you know, like find bodies and document debris and all that, you know.
Wow. I mean, that has to be like psychologically weighing on anybody that has to encounter something like that and deal with the aftermath of that.
Yeah, you know, I remember when I was working that day, you know, the worst thing was we were walking towards the buildings before they fell, and I remember people saying they started like running towards us, and they're like, "The building's gonna fall." And I was thinking, "Are these people crazy? There's no way, like this building is gonna fall." And people were like jumping out of the building, and there was a guy from Italy was our shop steward from the union, and I was like, I was looking, I was like, "Why are these people jumping?" Like I didn't realize there was like fires in there and stuff like that. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And he's just like, don't look up, don't even look at that." But I couldn't help but look. I was like, "What?" And sure enough, as we're walking towards it, they start like crumbling, you know, and then that whole thing you probably saw, you know, that cloud of dust, that big wave of dust and all that.
Yeah.
That just swallowed us all up. And but yeah, it was so crazy. It was like almost like was I even there? It was it's so crazy, man.
Yeah. My
Think
buddy
about
Israel told me about being there and just, he said it was insane.
it. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in hardcore and all? Like what did you have like cool friends, older brother, nearby venue?
I would say yeah, cool friends. My I got into heavy music from a friend of mine's older brother. So Doug Storm, he had an older brother named Glenn Storm who actually had a car and could drive, and he would take us to shows. He was mostly into like thrash stuff, you know, bands like Sacred Reich, Exodus, you know, stuff from that era. And he would take us to shows, and I thought it was cool. I was down for whatever. But then I caught like some early hardcore bands and some shows, because back then a lot of times they'd be mixed in Agnostic Front with like Obituary or, you know, Sick of a. And when I always liked the hardcore stuff for whatever reason better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was such an
So
interesting era.
started. It was, yeah, it was, because you kind of didn't know who was who, and
Right.
then you started putting pieces together. You know, if you're like the first timer, like you're like, okay, well, so what's the difference? Like, you know, why would some people walk away for this band and they're coming back for that band? I said, okay, these guys got long hair, these guys don't. They sound kind of similar. Maybe, you know, these guys are a little faster. These guys probably got better chops. But then you start figuring that out, and you just end up liking what you like, you know. And it was something cool back then, because, you know, the bills were they were mixed up. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of missed that. I remember there was a tour, God, probably like late 90s, early 2000s. It was like Indecision, Hot Water Music, and like Trial, like, and you don't see like a lot of these mixed bills anymore. And it's really unfortunate because, yeah, in the 80s, like everybody was like, yeah, you'd have like, Megadeth and Anthrax, and then like, Cro-Mags, Agnostic Front,
Yeah.
Gangrene or something like that, something crazy, and it was such a different era. I kind of wish we'd see that again.
You know who you still see it with? Terror. Terror still does stuff like that. Terror will tour with Dying Fetus and even Immure, metalcore bands. But for the most part, yeah, it's not like that at all. Outside of
No.
them, and big festivals overseas or even festivals here that are starting, you'll see people, the bills are mixed up, but for the most part, yeah, it doesn't happen. It's different.
And it's funny because I actually saw Terror on Warped Tour, and I was like, this is probably a good move for them. Like it reaches a completely different audience. So yeah, I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah, and they're a band that could kind of pull it off because the live show is so good.
Yeah.
So kids that wouldn't be normally interested in a hardcore band, in the moment you're gonna love Terror. They're just a great live band.
Yeah, Vogel will rep your shit too. Like I remember I was like, hey man, like here's a shirt. We played with him in like Hatebreed and fuck else, Love Is Red or somebody, and I threw him a shirt, and like, how he does the thing where he's got like 4 or 5 different shirts on, he'll take one off. Like he had one, we were like, fucking awesome. Solid band, solid dudes.
Yeah, he's good for that. He loves the scene. He loves the music,
Yeah, for sure. He's legit. Now, okay, so you had kind of a real colloquial exposure to hardcore and whatnot. Do you feel like there was any sort of like definitive record or records plural that kind of were like life changing or game changing for you?
Yeah, I really liked a really important record for me was One Voice by Agnostic Front, because the imagery of Agnostic Front, the look, the vibe, the attitude was great. But then maybe Victim in Pain didn't really hit me because it was so raw and so simple, and I appreciate it now more than I did back then. But when One Voice came out, I was like, okay, now the hardcore guys just like proved their value. They outdid, the other bands. Like, there's metal bands that they don't have albums this good, songs this good, or, full
Right.
length from beginning to end, like catchy songs, like choruses, big production. So One Voice like did it for me and made me think like, all right, you don't have to be, a metal band and go that route to also be interested in good music, good playing, good production, strong songs, and that definitely is one of the key albums for me. I love that album.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, God, I played with Agnostic Front probably about like 15 years or so ago, and they were a solid band. And, I went up to Vinny. I drank at the time, and I was like, "Hey, man, can I buy you a beer?" And he goes, "How about I buy you a beer, my friend?" And he took me back, and like he had a cooler full of beer, just tossed me. And I was like, "Man, these guys are fucking awesome,"
Yeah.
And like they signed a Nuclear Blast, which was like, metal as shit,
Yeah.
but somehow it works for them.
Yeah, I mean, we did a tour with them like 2 years right before the pandemic hit. We were on tour with them in Europe, and I remember hanging out in a parking lot with Vinny, and he's in his like maybe mid-60s until like 4:30 in the morning, and this guy's throwing rocks at trees, hanging. He's just like, it's unbelievable. I can't even. He during the tour he was doing stage dives. I don't understand how
Oh,
he
he's
operates.
crazy.
Yeah, but it's
Uh,
incredible. His attitude, he wants to see every band. He's always in the mix. Makes time for everybody. There's like a magic in that whole band, and it's a really important band to the scene. It's hard
Oh,
to
for sure.
imagine without Agnostic Front that I'd even, be interested in this thing for all the decades I have been as much. You know what I mean? They were really important
Right.
for me.
Yeah, I feel much the same about Cro-Mags, Bad Brains, like those were very, very pivotal bands for me, and like
Yeah.
it's so awesome to be able to like look upon albums that you liked at certain points in time and then sort of reminisce about that point in time and just be like, wow, this is what I was doing then, and it still
Yeah.
hits you.
Definitely. Yeah, albums and they're indicators, and reminders of your history, and other things do that too. Maybe food, a movie. If you see Karate Kid, you might remember something. Those BMX movies from back in the 80s. They might take you to a time and place. But albums are easy for that. You could, because especially if you love the album, you could remember when you first heard it. And the
Yeah.
season, the summer of just listening to it over and over, and what job you had. I remember when Appetite for Destruction came out, I was a dishwasher, and
Oh
I had
shit.
headphones and a cassette player. I was listening to that over and over and over.
I was about to ask you if you had any sort of like non-hardcore influences. I mean, I don't know, like Appetite's pretty like punk rock. That whole album has a
So raw.
lot of really heavy punk rock influence.
Yeah, it's like they didn't go, it didn't fit in category because it was just different enough. But it was so rock and roll, and the rhythm guitar on that album, like just if you really analyze the parts, the bass playing, the rhythm guitar, the lead guitar, the drumming, the different layers of vocals, it's a masterpiece. Even if you
Oh,
don't
they're
like
fucking
Guns N'
phenomenal.
Roses, yeah, it's like kind of like, oh, you got to appreciate the effort in that
I'll
album.
tell you what got me. I'll tell you what got me was when I really started to appreciate Guns N' Roses is when I started to see like Duff McKagan and like Slash do like interviews, and they would talk
Mm,
about old punk and old hardcore, and like they just seem like real legit, down to earth, real motherfuckers. Axl Rose ruins it for me, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Axl's like this weird, he's like a throwback rock star because we kind of rock stars, we never knew much about them before the age of the internet. And Axl, he just had an image. And even now with the internet, you still don't know much about Axl Rose. He's just such a creepy guy. But yeah, Duff and Slash, yeah, you hear them talking, you're like, okay, they're music lovers like me. They love music. And they were, some of the stuff, cross paths. And we did a festival once in I think it was France, and Slash's band played, not Guns N' Roses, but his band. And me and the singer Wisdominchains were sitting at a table with Slash, but we were too pussy to talk to him. We just kind of gave him the head nod. But I wanted to talk to him so bad, but I couldn't front like that. But
I heard he's super down to earth.
That's what I heard.
Really easy to approach, and we'll just sit and smoke cigarettes, and talk to you.
I went and saw them maybe 6 months ago. I saw them in Hershey Park, PA, and
wow,
yeah, they sounded great. Axl's voice was good.
It was GNR.
Yep, that Guns N' Roses. Okay. Yeah, Axl's voice was good for maybe the first 5-6 songs, and then it got rough. But he's getting old. But the band wise, music wise, tremendous. It was.
Oh yeah, I mean, I felt the same way about the Rolling Stones. I saw them. I saw them in the '90s, and they were already old. But they still rocked. And then I was like, maybe they're not as good. And then I put on a video of a live show they did like maybe a few years ago. They still fucking got it, man. That's the thing with those old rockers, man. Like if they got that vigor and spirit and they're not like Phil Collins, they'll be all right.
Yeah.
Have you seen Phil Collins?
No.
Oh, he's like, he doesn't even look like the same person. He's
really
so old and frail. Yeah, it's disappointing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just like, those bands from that time, they're like, that was their job. Now we have artists that, some artists that are so big they never even played a live show. Like it's a different time now. You have like these people that have 1 billion streams, and they're going to play a show live, but it's going to be like 3 songs.
Right.
Back then, like these guys were, they played thousands of shows before anybody knew who they were.
So have you seen the new format for upcoming bands? It's where they do this thing. It's just a vocalist and like a backing track, but they'll be like, it'll be hardcore, and then they'll throw in like all sorts of other crazy shit in there. But it's just like one person. Like it'd be like a hip hop act, but playing hardcore music. It's the weirdest fucking thing to me. Like where did that come from?
It is weird, but with the technology now, you could have fun at your house and you could band, but that's it takes a little bit out of it, and because I do that stuff at home. I got side projects. Like I just like to write stuff, but nothing is like being in a band, because when the things blend together, it's almost like, I always say, like at some point, if we ever play, I tell my band, if we ever play this perfect, like we could levitate. I think we could like levitate. I don't think it'll ever happen, but it feels like sometimes when you're playing really good, it feels like you're almost there. Like, wow, if it gets just a little better, and then the song's over, you're like, damn, I was just about to levitate on that one.
I think we played with you guys in Kernersville, North Carolina, at the Creations Skate Park. They used to have hardcore shows there all the time. I think we played with you guys there. I feel like we did. My band was called Death Blow. Yeah.
Okay, I know that band. I know that.
Yeah. I was axe slinger for a while.
Oh, nice. Singer. That's a rough spot.
No, axe slinger.
Oh, I thought you said the singer. Oh,
no. No, I played guitar myself. Yeah. So, what do you feel like your top like live experience or top bands to play with? Like, who do you feel like you open for this band and then you're just like, man, like you say, you levitate a little bit.
Like seeing a band that does that?
Seeing or playing with?
It's probably certain bands in certain places, like playing with Madball in New York City, that's that sort of feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's always like a spiritual kind of church kind of sermon vibe. But that's one of my favorite bands. So that's an easy one. Nice. It's hit or miss, you know what I mean? Because even your favorite band, sometimes they don't pull it off, If the chances of like really pulling it off you know, I'm in a band. I'll say my band, maybe we pull it off, in my opinion, 11% of the time. And, you know, like when it's like, just like, yeah, that was it. You know, otherwise I'm always like, fuck, like, fuck this one up. Could have been a little better here. So
Right,
it's
right.
like, you know, I'm real critical because I love music so much. So it's almost, sometimes I prefer to listen to the albums, you know, rather than live, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like, if they deviate from what I'm used to, I get a little upset, you know,
Yeah.
unless it's something better, you know, if somehow they make a part better, then I'm like, oh, whoa. But if they don't play something and I'm waiting for it, I'm like, motherfucker, damn, they skipped that one
I
part.
can't remember who I saw. Somebody played like half a song and then they were out of it. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
they were
that
on
could
to their
happen.
next song. It was like a fucking medley or something.
Or you're waiting for like a lead and they don't play it you know, that night, or, you know, certain backup vocal and it didn't happen.
Right.
You're like,
You know, I was looking around on YouTube to see if there were any interviews of you guys before, and I came across one, and you know, you told the story about how you were asleep in your van and somebody fucking jacked your guys' van when you were in the back.
yeah.
Do you mind telling like a amended version of that story, like a abridged version of that story? Because I'm not sure my audience would be familiar with that.
Yeah, we eventually wrote a song about it called Cap City. So if you don't know us, if you want to, our singer's pretty good with lyrics. He kind of laid it out pretty good. We had a little weekend, and it was I forget where we came from, but we were headed to Columbus, Ohio, and then the next day we had Detroit, and it was like that. That was the end of the run. So we go to Columbus, and there's a lot of good tattoo shops in Columbus, and one of our friend owns a lot of them. His name is Joey Knuckles. So we're going to Joey's house to sleep, but I'm already tired. You know what I mean? And I kind of like to be alone a little bit. So we got there late, and I said, I'll just sleep in the van. Like, you know, leave me alone. Everybody get out of here. You know. So I'm way in the back. Like, it's kind of like 4 bench seats. No, what do you call those? Pilot seats, right? The singles,
Right.
like 1, 2, and then a bench, and then I'm behind that bench in the back.
It's
And
one of
while
those like E150s, right?
Yeah, kind of like a conversion van. So they're comfortable.
Yeah.
But if you came in the front, I wouldn't even see you. I'm laying down way in the back. You wouldn't see me. I wouldn't see you. So all of a sudden I hear the van start up, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, these guys hungry? They're going to get something to eat. And I don't even know like when I wake up. I'm like, it could be like 10 miles away from the spot. It's kind of like, I notice the van's on, we're moving, and I pop up and I see somebody driving. That's not me. That's not my people. I'm like, what the fuck? And I saw his beady little eyes in the rearview mirror. And I just, you know, I went crazy. And I ran up there. I jumped over the seats, and I kind of like grabbed him around his neck, and my chest is to the back of his seat. So he's like locked in. And I'm just like feeding him punches in his mouth. And he's like screaming, and I'm screaming. And he's going crazy with the van back and forth. But like, I'm just locked in on this. Like, you know, I'm not going to fall. And I was just feeding him, and it just like down, 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 down. And he just gunned it, went across this one road into a guardrail. Like this ledge just went like almost straight down, like real vertical. But the guardrail stopped us. The whole van, it had a trailer on it, like kind of like did an endo. And the what do you call that? The airbag came out. Boom.
Yeah.
And the airbag hit me like a punch. Like, you know, I didn't know how those things operated. I never had experience with one. Yeah, it comes out like you can't even dodge it. Like,
yeah,
it just was like he hit that thing, and I flew into the back of the van. I saw, like, it was like slow motion. I saw tools floating in the air. My ass, there's dust everywhere. It's like powder from the airbag. So boom, I land in the back. I kind of crawl back over the seat, and I see this guy going out the passenger side, like limping. And he's running down the hill, and I'm trying to like scream at him, but my voice is shot. It's like filled with like this powder shit, like, so whatever is in the airbag. And I'm like, I'm looking for my phone, and I call Joe, our singer, and I start telling him like I'm trying to talk, but my voice is shot out. And then him and everybody from the house comes running out. And by that time, it's too late. This guy's long gone. There's little trickles of blood and stuff that they're following, but it's snowing at the same time. Stuff's getting covered up. So, so they're looking for him through the woods. Some people stayed with me. Eventually, cops show up. It looks like we just crashed, and, you know, we're like, oh, I don't know. Somebody tried to take the van, I guess, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember the cop saying to me, he's like, where are you guys going? I was like, we have a show in Columbus, and then we go to Detroit. He's like, well, you could thank us. This is what the cop said. I said, for what? He said, for for not letting your van get stolen in Detroit. It got stolen here instead. I was like, what the fuck kind of, you know what I mean? What kind of bullshit is that? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get hurt. My voice was shot. I got bumped up a little bit, but the van was totaled from then on out. We didn't have a van. It kind of sucked.
Oh,
But yeah, it was like, and the cop wanted to file it as a kidnapping. Like he told me this counts as a kidnapping, but I can't let that go down on paper as that I got kidnapped. That's a bad look. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I guess it technically would constitute one. Yeah. What you said they never did catch him?
No, never caught him.
No.
Weaselly looking, like strung out looking.
That's
like, yeah. I remember those beady eyes, but
yeah.
That
that stuff typically happens. What I found out happens a lot of times is, these guys will look for bands that are touring and they'll follow the itineraries, and then they'll, show up at the venues and, try to rip them off and shit.
Yeah, especially the venues. That's like the hot spot for getting your shit stolen. Like, they look for the gear, even loading in. You leave something on the ground for 2 seconds, and boom. And a lot of the venues are on shady spots. Gone. Yeah, you always got to be careful.
Yeah.
I remember we did a show in Delaware.
You ever play the Milestone?
Nah, where's that?
You ever play the Milestone in Charlotte, North Carolina?
I don't think so. We played in Charlotte.
It's a pretty good venue, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyways, Delaware.
Oh, yeah, we did a show in Delaware, and a big riot broke out. Everybody's fighting. Everything calms down, and then we go to pack our stuff up, and all my shit's gone. I had a brand new Les Paul that was stolen. My guitar head was stolen. I was so bummed out. Yeah, like shit. It happens. Like you said, you play enough shows, something's gonna get nipped.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like. No, I had a guitar get stolen from me one time, like an ESP LTD one time, and it fucking sucked. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like I've had Les Pauls, and those weren't stolen, fortunately, but
yeah,
it's, you put money into something, then it's just gone, and especially for like a touring hardcore band, it's a lot of the dudes may not make a lot of money, so it's like that's like an investment that's just gone,
Yeah, and it's kind of like a guitar is a little different than something else because it's also like. You could have, let's say, I don't know, your laptop gets stolen, that's like, fuck. But like when a guitar, like an instrument, like, this is almost like it's a special thing. You know what I mean?
Right. It's very personal too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My dad drove for musicians and collected guitars from musicians, and like those things are priceless, and it's like, there's so much like sentimental value and all that stuff to it. Yet, you can't replace those things. Like that. Do you ever see Hateful Eight?
The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not in a long time.
Well, when Kurt Russell broke that Martin guitar from the 1880s.
Yeah.
That was a real guitar. It wasn't the replica.
Wow.
And Martin said they were never going to let them use any other guitars for filming ever again.
Wow.
So
I live close to the Martin factory.
No shit.
Yeah, it's in like I think Nazareth, PA, or something it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you do most of your coming up in the hardcore scene in PA then?
Yeah. Between from New Jersey originally, and then we moved here, probably like at an hour from there. But the shows, most shows I've early on were PA and New Jersey.
Right.
Then we'd hit New York because that was convenient too. But yeah, that was like the big circle.
Us Southern kids don't really have a whole lot of understanding of Northeastern geography, and like everything's so almost centralized, like all the states are. And anytime we want to go somewhere down here, we got to go like 4, 5, 6 hours away, So like when I hear about all these bands, we drove like an hour or something. I'm like, that's so crazy, because like we just don't have that. It's a completely different dynamic.
It is convenient, man, because even Boston is not too crazy. I could probably get to Boston in like 4 hours. So you got Boston, you got New York City's like an hour, Philly's like an hour and a half. Then all the small towns that had shows, Trenton, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, where they used to have the Pipeline and Studio One, Albany, ton of shows, Newburgh, these are all be like an hour to 2 hours, You know,
Yeah.
a lot of active bands and a ton of venues. It was a convenient spot for hardcore. You know, definitely.
Yeah. Now you guys put out an album with Tony from Fast Break, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he came up to North Carolina one time because he's friends with some friends, and yeah, I hadn't even known much about Fast Break, but yeah, I learned that today by watching that interview, the same one where you talk about the being in
Oh,
the back
okay.
of the van. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Fast Break is actually it's me. Like it's also my label. Me,
Oh no
Tony,
shit!
and Chris
Get the
Mahmood
fuck out of here!
from MUSHMOUTH.
Small
Yeah,
world.
yeah. So we started that like years ago just to put out our own stuff and get some other. But it's been going over 10 years now.
Oh no
And
shit! I
yeah,
thought he was the sole proprietor.
yeah. It's Fast Break's crazy because the setup is like Tony will do his own projects. And
Uh
then
huh.
like there'll be something will come out on Fast Break and I wouldn't even know about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh shit, we put that out. And then I'll do something. We got a key guy named Tim that it does all the business, deals with all the pressing plants, has a lot of relationships with that stuff. And
Sure.
so we got 3 different guys in Tim's ear, basically, bringing him projects and boom, boom, releasing
Oh,
this
that's
and that.
awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
It's better when it's like a multi-man operation too, and you can kind of get guys that are on the same wavelength, and then you
Yeah.
can get more shit done, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, Tim does the bulk of the work, but me and Tony will, bring him stuff we're interested in.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, like, what do you make of everything that's kind of going on in the world today? Because like originally I had connected with you through John Joseph. You had responded to something that he put on there because he was saying like look, just because I don't like Joe Biden doesn't mean I like Trump, and a lot of the Trump acolytes, I know this from personal experience. They think he is beyond reproach. And I don't think that is the case at all. I believe that anybody, regardless of whatever their political position, whomever they are, if they do some shit that's a foul, then they need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't agree with the whole virus thing. And, I was really actually like, when I reached out to you, it was really refreshing and pleasant to see like how you reacted, because you were just like, I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I don't think he's like God or anything, and you're like, yeah, like all the people defend him, just without any sort of restraint or anything like that, and so it was really nice to be able to kind of like bridge that gap. And I kind of wish people all across any sort of political spectrum or aisle could have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see what the interaction I had with John Joseph on his the Facebook or
I think it was Instagram.
Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, was it when I said like I'm not sure which one it
I'm
was
gonna look it up. It was
because I
it
know
was
he
some
deleted some of my shit and I got all mad. Was that the one
he
or no?
deleted your shit.
Yeah, I got all mad. Yeah, I
The
mean John's
fucking
my
Mama
man, but
Luke. What the
yeah,
fuck? Hang on here. Let's see. It was where did I put it?
I love
Yeah,
getting
no, well, I saved it because I was just like, most people are like, fuck you, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, slow down,
Oh
and
yeah, okay,
like,
yeah, they were attacking me right because I said something bad about Trump. Is that the
yeah, I
one?
think that's probably what it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then
And
he
yeah,
deleted my
there's
shit,
Trump
so I
boys,
got
man. There's Trump bros and stuff, like I don't and I tell this with my friend on the left all the time. Like, I mean, I was a leftist for 20 years, and then like I went to Hollywood, it was relatively apolitical. And then like now I just like John was saying, I just want to hear the truth. I don't give a shit what
yeah,
side it comes from.
yeah, yeah. It's like how could you sit and defend Biden and how could you sit and defend Trump? Like that's what I just don't understand. And then
Right.
so like, the Trump people want to be like, "Oh, it's not punk rock to do XYZ," but meanwhile they're cheerleading Trump. And then the left it's not punk rock and then they're cheerleading in fairness to the
Right.
left though, they don't really cheerlead Biden. Like I don't get the vibe that there's blind
No,
allegiance
they
and love.
don't. They
Yeah.
don't at all.
And one thing about the left is they attack their own pretty viciously, and like,
Right.
but then the right, they kind of let their own get away with a lot of shit that I
Right.
think anyway, I'm witnessing, and that was the thing. I said something, I think that whole post was about calling out people that dealt with Epstein. I think that was it. And then they were mentioning, Bill Gates and Bill Clinton, and that's great. Yeah, call them out.
Right.
And then I figured, I'll mention some dudes too, and I mentioned Trump because there was definitely a
He was
relationship
there.
Yeah,
He was there.
he he's on video praising the guy. He mentions young girls in his quote about Harvey Weinstein. So you have knowledge that maybe he knows what's going on. And then some of the people that were, some of the girls that are still around were recruited from Mar-a-Lago. So okay, maybe the guy's in the mix. So just by mentioning the Trump name, I became, this and that and a libtard and this and that. It's just so crazy. Like, yeah, they jumped on me just for mentioning Trump. And Trump's a piece of shit. He was a piece of shit from day one. Like, before he ran for president, he was the original Kardashian. He was the original Paris Hilton before social media. He wanted to be a celebrity. He wanted to be hang out with celebrities. He wanted to, the audio of him pretending to be his publicist, but it's his voice, and he's saying,
I've never heard of that. No,
you Google that and listen to it, and he's like this, and Donald was at the club, and I'll tell you what, Madonna took a real liking to him, and it's like, that's you, like it's crazy stuff.
No, that's
and
good.
The name he uses for his publicist is something Barron. Eventually he would name his son Barron. He's obsessed with
Barron. Yeah. His son. Right. Yeah.
So he's a crazy. He's a crazy asshole. And then now we have Biden, who is just he never was consistent on one issue, and it's beautiful now that this abortion issue comes out, and all his own words can be used against him from the past when he was so deadly against abortion, as this moral Catholic that he pretended to be in the past, and now he's completely shocked with this decision. Like, why do we have to defend any of them? Why can't we just attack everyone that talks shit and feel like I'm not connected to a politician? I have no love for a politician, whether it's Trump or Biden. That's kind of my page.
It's interesting because it's like back in the early days of government, people were just supposed to they were just supposed to be like common folks. They were supposed to go and serve at their government post for whatever tenure, and then they were done. But that they have found some way to circumvent that so that they can stay entrenched in DC politics for like fucking Dianne Feinstein's what, like 90 something fucking years old. That's crazy. The people that are making decisions, even Trump, I was like, okay, if Trump runs in 2024, he's going to be pretty fucking old, and like that's a concern. That the whole situation with Biden, that was a concern. So it's like, these people there needs to be some sort of I don't even know if it's legislation, because they'd probably find some way to circumvent that, but term limitations, because it's absurd. It's absurd how the fucking dinosaurs are still there.
It's insane. And you do hear once in a while outsiders come into the mix and they mention, term limits, and it gets killed quick because they're career politicians. But like you said, at one time, it was a public service, and that's all they did. They wanted to come in, do their public service. You get paid an average kind of, salary, and then you move on. But now it became a job and an insider's job for both sides. And when it comes to certain things, like the left and the right, they can never agree on anything. But when it comes to dealing with banks, bailing out big businesses, they're all suddenly all on the same page.
I'm very like skeptical of that one too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's almost like it's real obvious. It's obvious what's going on. We see Pelosi with this insider trading stuff. Come on, like we don't. But then if you really get into it, there's dozens of Republicans with the same allegations and even proof behind the insider trading. Yeah. But who's talking about it? Fox? They'll talk about Pelosi. They'll mention Pelosi once in a while just because they hate her. But they won't go into the big picture. Well, CNN, they probably won't mention any of them. But that's big news, no? Insider trading from career politicians?
Yeah, you would think that.
You would think so. But it's just, it's so ridiculous. And, now we have, you have the January 6th, that whole committee going on. And you see, that should be big news. Fox won't even mention it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then when when it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop, oh, CNN won't mention that one.
Right.
Like these are bought and sold propaganda networks for one side or the other. Like, no matter who you like, you got to admit that. Even if you're a Trump fan, you got to admit, okay, well, yes, we see Fox they do seem to be working for Trump. Okay, you can't at least admit that, and you can say,
which
okay,
is funny because back in the day they were so anti-Trump. They were trying to go for all the neocons. Yeah, and it's like
they were so anti-Trump because they thought he didn't have a shot.
Exactly.
And then once he got in there, and then once they saw his cult-like following, they're like, "This is great. No one's going to love Mitt Romney like this. No, there's no way. So we're going to back this guy. Has an army of followers that, just like he said, I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and I wouldn't lose any love. People,
it's interesting when you kind of look at it from a business standpoint from Fox because. Yeah, they stand to capitalize heavily on Trump's whole base. If they're endorsing him and they're giving him praise, well, that's viewership.
Yeah. And Trump's base is the type that you talk shit on Trump, they turn on you.
Yeah.
And Fox can't afford to have them turn.
I said, I voted for him, but like I'm not going to be offended if somebody doesn't like him. Though here's a situation that Trump voters typically deal with. As far as like relationship issues, like I was recently talking to a girl and she was like, well, how do you feel about, here's what she said. She said, I'm gray politically. How do you feel about Donald Trump? I was like, yeah, I voted for him. And she was like, fuck you, you ignorant piece of shit. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, we can't have first of all, great. I guess it's good that it worked out that way. But second of all, people platonically, romantically can't have conversations like that. Our society is getting to the point where, civil discourse is, like a reserved sort of thing, like where you don't see it very much anymore. Everybody's so incensed by the internet and social media and the news and celebrities and it just vomits all out onto the world.
I'm called libtard and a Nazi, it could in the same day. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends who I'm talking to. But
you win, brother. Congratulations. Yeah. You're telling the truth.
It's just kind of like, but this new thing of, like you can't even, politics used to be kind of off limits. People just didn't seem to care or talk about it much. Now it's really, it's like life. It's people's identity now. It's their tribe,
It's hard though, because it's so omnipresent in everything. It's omnipresent in advertising, in films. You go to the fucking grocery store, they're sloganeering all over the place, and it's like you can't help but not talk about it sometimes,
I love talking about it. I follow politics like people follow the NFL. Like, I love I just like it. I like arguing and I like talking about it, but I just don't understand when people become aligned to a politician. Like, I just don't buy it. Like, Trump, I know plenty of good people that voted for Trump. I don't really get the reasons because I thought he was just a bullshitter from the beginning, but I understand if some people they're like, I have to vote. Some people you have to vote. And when you're presented Hillary or Trump, you could vote for either of them for all I care. Like, I don't see any benefit in voting for either of these people. That's kind of how I went about it. But some people think that's a real bad thing not to vote. But if that's the options, then count me out. So I can see why people did vote for Trump the first time around, because the alternative was Hillary. Yeah. And Hillary was, we came, we saw, we killed them. That's the peaceful Democrat. That's a quote from her.
She's a bloodthirsty war hawk, man.
Oh, totally. And people like to give Trump credit for not starting a war, but he could have very well started a war when he assassinated a sitting general out of nowhere. Like, so it was almost just out of luck that it didn't end up in a war.
That nothing happened. Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't give him props for being like a peaceful guy. Like, that could have, if any Democrat would have been the right would have been going crazy. And
what I heard about Trump though here recently, and I don't know if this is true or apocryphal or not, but that he crossed the 39th parallel into North Korea to talk to Kim Jong-un with no guards or anything else.
Well, I think there's footage of that.
He really did it.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I thought that was just like, even sometimes I hear stories about Trump where I'm like, that that true? You know, like even if it is good, I'm like, I don't know if I believe that or not. You know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's footage of that. You know, it's like kind of, a photo op, but he did it. He definitely did it.
Wow.
And I don't think there was anything wrong with trying to talk to, to a person like that and trying to settle differences, even though, he's a cruel, ruthless leader. But
Right.
the thing is with Trump, though, he does that stuff and then there's potential for it, but there's nothing behind it because he doesn't do his homework. You know what I mean? He just does like he'll say something. I have a friend who's pretty high up in the military, and he was telling me one time early on before when the Korean dude was just popping off talking about bombing this and bombing that, Trump got on TV and said, we're sending subs over there right now, and blah blah blah, we're not going to take his rhetoric. And my friend was telling me that he's in the Air Force. He's like, yo, the Air Force, the Navy, we were all like, everybody screaming at each other because they're like, who ordered this? Like, what's going on? And then people are like, no, we're not doing it. And we're like, you're lying to us. The president, so the president just got on TV, said this. The military had no awareness of it. Then they think, are they supposed to do it? All the military starts reacting, coordinating with each other. But meanwhile, it's not even a legitimate thing. He just kind of like he pops off. And that could be dangerous. That's a dangerous personality unless it's powerless.
Right.
But if you're a person with power that just says random things, that could lead to a dangerous situation. That's what my deal with Trump was. It's just like, this guy don't give a fuck. Like he's just
he's pretty incendiary.
Yeah, and
I've always equated him but see, in his defense, I've always said like, man, Trump was like probably the most punk rock president we've ever had, in that he just fucking calls it like it is. He doesn't have any sort of filter, and some people are like, well, he's actually working for the establishment too. He does all the Illuminati signs and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's all an act that just was a big psyop that got, one half of the country bamboozled or not, but it was entertaining. And even when I wasn't a Trump voter, I was like, this guy's pretty fucking funny. I was like, I don't think it's seriously.
He's funny, but I just think I personally think he led to the division in this country. He's very divisional. I mean, he got on TV and he said, like, people are like, the media treats him bad, and they do. But he, right off the bat, he said, before he was president, he's like, the media is the enemy of the people. Okay, so if you do that, you're gonna get attacked from the media. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is he wrong though?
I don't know. I really don't know. They could be, but that's a pretty crazy statement. If so, and you're the sitting president, what are you going to do about it? Is there you're just going to say it and walk away? I think you could. Like let's say if he made that his mission, I'm the sitting president. The enemy of the American people is the media. I'm going to have a task force to point out all of the lies that they have been intentionally doing in order to promote certain things that interest them and their owners. But he didn't. He just said it and he walks away, and he does that a lot.
I mean, wouldn't that technically be unconstitutional?
Not at all. He could start an investigation into that immediately if he wanted. It's just, I'm not saying he just pushes a button and says you're all under arrest. I'm saying he starts an investigation. Like you presidents can do that. They did it to Hillary Clinton, was under investigation. That's totally we got to remember right before the election with her, the FBI, the head of the FBI said basically that he gave her a pass. If you remember that guy.
Yeah. That was what's his name? Brett.
Is it Comey?
Yeah, Comey. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people talk to me about the whole like Comey situation and stuff like that. I was so far removed from politics at the time, and a lot of it was because of that obnoxious, the fucking mudslinging between, Clinton, Trump, all that, and all the candidates. That's why I found it really like whenever Kamala Harris got picked as Biden's running mate, I was like, she was just talking shit about him like one month ago.
How can we take her seriously after that? She basically called him a rapist, and then accepted her, her position as vice president to the rapist.
Right?
Like, how can we take her serious? And how can we take him serious? Why would he choose her? After if those charge that she said he's I do believe we shouldn't say rapist, but sexual assault, whatever it was. if she said that to him, but she didn't say it to him, but she said she thought those allegations were true. How could he extend that position to her? Like, if she was lying, you know, I would have been like, if I was Biden and they would have said, hey, how about Kamala? I was like, that bitch? She said I'm a sexual assaulter.
Maybe he's like, shut the fuck up. We got some dirt on you from your Dr. Dre pot smoking stomach.
Yo,
You know?
there's plenty of stuff on her when she was the DA in California, stuff that she, you know, like a lot of DAs, unfortunately, they don't want to be wrong, and sometimes they withhold evidence in order to
She's
keep
crooked
their
as fuck.
convictions. Totally. And it's like, I'm just willing to say it, and I'm not gonna give props to I think Trump is a crook. I think Biden's a crook. I can't give these people props. Now, did Trump do anything good during his presidency? Yeah, the prison reform was good, and presidents before him didn't do that, so you give him that. Did Biden do anything good? Well, we said we wanted to get out of Afghanistan. We did it in a sloppy way, but we actually did it under Biden.
Yeah,
It was
I guess we
disastrous.
did.
Yeah, but he said he was going to do it, and it happened because 3 presidents before that said they were going to do it, and they didn't. It didn't happen. So
yeah.
so I'm just I don't like them, but if they do something like another thing with Trump though that was disastrous was his 4 years of waiting to see his health care plan that he said was fantastic, the best ever, and it's going to be the most, you know, financially efficient. Up until his last days, he was talking about, I'm going to show it next month. You know, if somebody does good, I'll give him props. Trump did a couple things that I think were beneficial. Biden has a couple things that were beneficial, but for the most part, they're cesspools, these people, you know.
Well, you know who I never like defending is AOC. However, you know, a broken clock's right twice a day. And every so often she says something where I'm like, huh, yeah, I guess that does kind of make sense. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I've always maintained she is like the left's answer to Trump in that she's very bombastic. She's got a very, well, she claims is a very grassroots, organic following. A lot of them, you know, Trump used social media, Twitter, AOC uses Instagram and like TikTok and all those sources, you know. So she's almost like this, you know, like younger political 180 version of Trump.
Yeah, to me, she comes off as kind of like uninformed, you know. And you don't want a politician to be uninformed. I don't want to say stupid because I'm sure she's smarter than me, but you're right though. I've seen her questioning people in Congress, like pharmaceutical people. I've seen her questioning just different, you know, when they have their hearings, and she was very tough on a lot of people that I thought that she would give a pass to, and some of the questions and putting them on the spot, I was surprised, you know. And so I'll give her props. I mean, I don't know what legislation that she has ever, you know, been part of that it was helpful.
Green New Deal.
Yeah,
well, that wasn't really helpful.
Yeah, there could be something in the mix. I just don't know.
Right.
I really don't know. But yeah, she has her little following. But
how do you feel about Gabbard, like Tulsi Gabbard?
I like her, but I think like when I think she kind of felt a little open arms to the right, and then in turn she took it easy on Trump, and she stopped. She wouldn't attack Trump just because she's like, all right, I know my own left are kind of like going against me. Once she went on Hillary, it was kind of like a wrap for her. But then she used to attack Trump, rightfully so, I thought. But once the right started kind of like talking highly of her, I felt she backed off, and I thought that was kind of a coward move a little bit. You know,
interesting.
I could be wrong. Maybe she's not that kind of personality, and she you know, had better things to talk about. But I definitely felt like.
I think if she runs for re-election, there's a high probability that she may do a party shift.
She could, and but there's a lot of people on the left that still like her. You know what I mean? So that might turn them off. You know, like you know, the two parties alone, it's so hard to take them serious. You know, because I was a guy who liked Ron Paul, and I liked Bernie Sanders. And they're you know, their ideology was much different, but I felt like, okay, there's at least what I think are two honest men. You know, I think they're two honest men that aren't worried about being bought, aren't really worried about personal ego, and they really have the best interest in the country. Whether they're right or wrong, I don't know, but I felt they were honest men. You know what I mean? Which now I just
Right.
can't find who I think. Yeah, I think Tulsi is an honest person, but I'm not positive. And I just thought that was a little cowardly when she kind of backed off the attacks because she was getting a little love from Fox would invite her on to chat because they love bringing someone from the left that agrees with them. So they love talking about like Bill Maher now, because Bill Maher is very critical of the left as he should be. So
As he
they
should
love
be. And I'm
totally.
kind of into Mar, you know. I
I
actually
love
sat
Bill Maher.
in.
I love
Yeah,
that guy.
I sat in on his studio audience one time, and you know, like, yeah, sometimes he says some shit. I'm like, what? And then other times I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, I always use Bill Maher as an example when people talk about, you know, politics dividing people. The fact that he's friends with Ann Coulter just tells you that we as a society can coexist peacefully despite our political differences, you know, because fucking Ann Coulter, I mean, shit, I mean, I get what she's saying and some of the things I agree with what she's saying, but she comes off as snobby and dismissive, and that's
Yeah.
why a lot of people don't like her, you know. But Bill Maher like has been a long time friend of hers, you know, and like
Yeah. Has her on a
I
show. He had a lot of
have
right
you
wing
ever
guys on
lost
the
any
show.
sort of friends or any sort of, you know, personal
Nah, I don't
relationships?
think so. I don't think so, but I do when I run into like what I call like Trump groupies, like just like they just refuse to acknowledge anything that he has done that's negative, and they think he's some sort of like I got in an argument with my own aunt once, right? And she said God is in the White House to protect us, and this is under Trump's administration. And I was like, really? Like to grab him by the pussy guy, like fucking a porn star on his pregnant wife is God in the White House? And she deleted me and hasn't talked to me since.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
wow.
So it's like,
Dude.
yeah, I haven't been upset enough about it, but that was one thing when they were upset. But I mean, come on.
Did you grow up like in a family that was kind of politically acclimated?
Yeah, a little bit. My dad would listen to like radio shows, like political radio shows. He used to listen to I forget the one guy's his name, but he's so good. He used to scream and yell. Like
Gledbeck?
nah, it was like before that. It was like an early
Imus?
pioneer. Nah, or like before that.
Oh, wow.
Shit. Bob Grant. I think Bob Grant is his name. This is
I
an
don't think I've
old
ever
school
listened to Bob
dude.
Grant.
Yeah,
Okay.
he would people call up, disagree with him. He say, hang up your phone, dummy, you dummy. And I'm just like listening on the radio, and this guy was yelling at everybody. So he did a little bit, but if anything, I would say they were like old school. They were like Bill Maher Democrats. You know what I mean? They were like Bill Maher
Yeah, like the
Democrats.
classical liberal,
Yeah,
like
they were
centrist
like
Democrat.
they were like union people, pro union, and
Right.
in their time, they saw like people like Ronald Reagan as union busters because of what happened with the airlines and stuff. But they weren't like this new democratic style. They would have no like they're long gone now, but they would have
Right.
no understanding of this new
Now,
mentality.
you being a union member, and see, I qualified for the union when I went out to Hollywood, but I didn't buy into it. The Actors Guild, you know, what do you feel is so important about unionization in America?
Well, that's a time when unions were strong. That definitely was a boost. It was a boost to the middle class. It was like a step up. And it was like unions are only as strong as the members. Like, so a lot of people are unhappy with their unions, but they're working in a union in a county where unions are looking down, they're looked down upon, and there's only like 5 of them. 5 people paying dues with a rep from the city that's 4 hours away. They don't have much power, unfortunately. In a city like New York, they're more powerful. And it's just it's helpful for workers because you can't really I could get fired tomorrow. Like all this stuff that union workers, they don't work. Like my job is strenuous. It's like, if walk around New York City, look at a 110-story skyscraper. Do you think it gets built because nobody's working? Like, because everybody's sitting there taking 2-hour lunch? Like, the dudes are busting their asses everywhere in that whole city, just sweating, dirty. Jump on a subway. Look at these people at around 3:30. Jump on a subway and look at these guys. But like they expected a wage. And early on, they said, "Oh, this wage is ridiculous. This will knock out all the work. Nobody will ever be able to pay you guys this way." And then there's more work than ever. Every year, there's more work. There's more work. There's more work. Like, people were very excited. I under the Trump economy, and they're like, "Oh, it's the greatest work." Listen, I've been working for the last 20 years, like, nonstop. So I don't know. Like, in New York City, it's been very busy. A lot of
and you guys get really good wages, and
it's a strong wage, and it's kind of like you can't, like, you can't really take advantage. So, like, if we see, because you could, like, throughout the country, you could take advantage of people who are poor that really just need to work. And we know, okay, you just need to work. Here, I'll give you $7 an hour. Shut up here. But in the city, a poor dude that really needs to work, he's going to get paid just like me if he's on that job. It's just, that's prevailing wage. You're going to get it. So it's kind of, it's a good way to get, he can still get fired if he sucks. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. A lot of people mistake private unions and public unions. Like, I'm not in a teachers union. My union has nothing to do with the state. It's private, and then there's cop unions and stuff like that. That's
like SAG isn't even a real union. It's a guild.
Yeah. And then there's Teamsters, and there's all offshoots. So people think, like, people who are anti-union don't understand all the nuances and different styles. Like, in the teachers union, this is like, it's very, the state is involved a lot. And, that's where sometimes, oh, he did this and we can't even fire him. Like, I don't even know that world. In my union, you could get fired for showing up 2 minutes late. You know what I mean? It's just, that's how it is. So private unions are much different, but we have a prevailing wage, we have good benefits, and we have, like, if we need something, a lawyer, boom, we could get a lawyer, we could get help. It's just working out for workers. And throughout history, if you look into American history, when unions got strong, the country jumped up a notch. That's when home ownership really rose. And that's when, suburbia was really built up, and people started commuting to work, and everybody started having a car. And before unions, you had a lot of dangerous situations. There's like, I worked in one building in New York where it was a site of a big fire. Like 300 women were killed because they'd come to work and they'd lock the doors. Okay, you're in there now. We're locking the door. Get to work. We'll open it in 8 hours. And the fire started in there, and the guy doesn't come back to open, and they die in there. So it's a safety thing. It's wages. It's benefits. It's a good thing. But don't get me wrong. People could take advantage of situations in the union. And
I was going to say there is that antagonistic element that exists sometimes.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, anybody could take advantage of anything, and we could find, the negative things in good situations all the time. You can, if you want to attack a union, of course you could. You could find that. If you want to attack the police force, of course you could. You could find that where they did wrong. But it's funny. Like, sometimes people blindly defend the police, and they attack the union, and then another group is blindly defending the union, and they attack the police. Like, just call it like it is. Like, the individuals that do fucked up stuff, in the union or as wearing blue as a cop, call them out.
Well, and I think with that too, we also have to understand that I don't think any entity or organization is infallible. And that's, I have this conversation with friends a lot about, America as a country. Hell, we're not perfect. We were far from it, and we're still far from it. But it's one of those things where, it's a progression, like we as a society start to figure out what doesn't work, and, what's inhumane and against, human rights and things like that. And then we eliminate those things, and so much like with, a bad cop or something like that, I'm sure there's plenty of police precincts. I know there is, with really good cops in there that are legit and, just do their job. And then there's the bad eggs, the dirty ones, And you
Totally.
gotta get rid of those, and be able to maintain some sort of like professional and legit organization.
Yeah, I mean, we could go, we could find examples all day and look on the internet and like, people love to do it. And you could see, we could post, cops killing some poor black guy, and then we could say if he was white, this would never happen. And no, we could find footage of them killing on a white guy
Right.
too. It's just like, why do people have to jump on this team this, team that? Some cops are scumbags, straight up. Some union guys
Right.
are scumbags. Some teachers are scumbags.
Well, and like you said, it's kind of like a sports team mentality that we have, where it's
Yeah.
like everybody's very tribalistic about it. Everybody's got their gear that they don. They've got their their slogans, so
Yeah, you see the stickers, you see like the flag with the blue line in it, and that means one
right.
thing. It's just like, come on, get over this shit. Like, call out a cop if he fucks up. If he does
Yeah.
good, give him an award or whatever they do. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really fuck around with police. Luckily, I don't have to deal, with cops. I'm not, but I'm sure there's plenty of good ones, and I'm sure there's some jerk offs too. We know that.
Yeah. What's your family's like national origin? Like, where do they migrate from?
Italy. My father's family was from southern Italy, Calabria, a town called Falerna, and then
That's the movie, Knights of Calabria, right? Oh no, I'm sorry, Knights of Cabiria. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I don't ever heard of either of those.
Oh, they're old. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Calabria's a very bottom, like the bottom of the boot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's Calabria, and then
Okay.
and then my mother's family is like more north of that, in a town called Molise. They're from
Okay.
there, so yeah, Italian roots.
So then, like, your grandparents probably lived during like the fascist era of like Mussolini and whatnot, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Like,
Did you ever hear any stories about that, or?
not really. Nah, I didn't hear anything like that. I love to watch Mussolini talk though. His speeches insane. I don't know what he's saying, but you know what he invented that I don't think people know? You know how
Make
rappers
something great again. He said he said it.
Did he really?
He said something like make Italy great again or something. And I was like,
Oh,
whoa. I was like,
Yeah.
shit. I was like, that's not good.
Well, you ever see rappers when they do the arm fold and then they go like this with the
Oh yeah.
yo,
Oh,
watch Mussolini's speech, and at the end of the speech, he does that to a T. Yeah, like hard
Yeah,
like
he
that with the
does,
chin
he
real high.
does.
And I'm like, wow, like that is a hard look.
In a different era, he could have been on Yo MTV Raps or something.
Yeah. But if you look at leadership back then, just him giving a speech or Hitler giving a speech, I mean, imagine like a politician coming out now like that. We would be like, yo, we got to get rid of this guy. Like, this guy's
Oh
too,
yeah. I mean, they
this
were
guy's too
showing
animated for us. Like,
right.
crazy.
Well,
bro.
Hitler was actually he wanted to be able to kind of like enunciate his words and have like really grand gestures, and so he trained under somebody who taught Shakespeare, and that's how he gets all his like really grand like movements and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Not to mention he was on all sorts of amphetamines and stuff too. So
Yeah, I was just watching footage of him too that at the Olympic Games. Yeah, shaking all over. I was showing my girl that. I'm like, check it out. Her mother's from Germany, so I said, here, look at your uncle shaking all over here. But yeah, his speeches were crazy, and he had the one hair hanging, and his body would be like real still, but his arms and his hands, like he definitely he had an idea like, okay, there's thousands of people watching me in a crowd, and I'm not sure what they can see if but I'm going to show them something, like they're going to see something going on up here. Yeah,
right.
He was wild, dude.
Yeah, it was insane.
It's amazing we have footage of him because, we hear about Napoleon, we hear about people, before him, but we got a chance to see through footage Adolf Hitler, and it's insane, man.
Yeah, he was a it's interesting because in Vedic philosophy, they talk about Shakti, like energy. And you can just tell certain personalities and certain people have more Shakti or energy than others. And Hitler had a lot of charisma. And it's interesting to think like what he could have been had he actually like put his mind to some good, or was in his own mind. I think he thought he was probably doing good for the people of Germany, you know? It's one of those weird
Yeah.
like dichotomies. It's like, is he aware of all his nefariousness, or does he legitimately in his heart believe that he is doing the right thing for his country?
I mean, yeah, you must, he must have legitimately thought he was like I think he probably thought he was completely justified, he went through a lot. If he didn't, like, he was just a serial killer, basically, in the highest level, So yeah, I think he thought, I'm doing the right thing. These people are destroying my people, my country, my nationality, my identity, my culture. He was, but that's he has all the markings of like a bullied personality, someone who was, he felt like slighted by the state. He felt, he did jail time, and he just had the revenge mindset like that. We nowadays we see all these school shooters, and what did a lot of them have in common? A bullied mindset, a bullied personality, and they feel like, I'm going to show you, I'll show you. And he had it to like the highest degree,
Hitler in a different era would be like painting his fingernails and listening to Marilyn Manson and
He
shit.
might have had bangs and bought a AR-15 and put it on TikTok and then came out shooting. Who knows?
I hate you guys and the Udens.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Do you ever watch any like political movies?
Like what? Like which ones?
Well, oh geez, like Bertolucci, The Conformist.
Nah, I don't know about any of those.
Oh man, okay. Yeah, I mean I try to watch political movies that have some sort of I mean at least like a good aesthetic, so it's like a good movie to watch on the eyes, but that have some sort of underlying political theme. The Conformist is a good one. Italian film, Bertolucci. Have you ever seen The Conversation? Gene Hackman?
Nah.
Yeah, it was Francis Ford Coppola, and it's about like a surveillance state. It was 1974. Really, really crazy film. Really, like, it makes you like afraid of Big Brother. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, Big Brother's a thing. I mean, it's but it's something like, we're almost volunteering for this at this point, even
Yeah,
what we're
your
doing
cell
right
phones
now.
and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
we're live on the
They
internet.
see all this shit.
Yeah, if I say something out of whack, you say something out of whack. It's documented. If we said something that they perceived as a threat, it's on. Like, and we did it to ourselves.
Oh, I'm gonna get sound clipped one day. I just know that's an inevitability. So I'm just like, whatever, say whatever. If you don't watch the whole thing for, and that's another thing. Like with news, if you don't watch something for context, and you don't watch something for, and you don't watch alternate sources, so you can like verify and cross-reference things and be like, well, what did this source say that this source didn't say, and like what seems more closer to the truth based on previous evidence. It's almost like an experiment, or like using in order to come to some sort of theory or hypothesis or something.
Yeah, no, I like, I flip back and forth all day. MSNBC, Fox, CNN, all the stuff on the internet. And I think that's why podcasts are big, political podcasts, because those are all set up for short format, real quick arguments, little sound bites, like the networks are. And then these news podcasts, which a lot of people have some good ones out there, that's, people are hearing the whole story,
Yeah.
I kind of like, I got a new car and I kept the Sirius in it, and I listened to like the news stations on Sirius, and it's almost like old school radio. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this shit was still going on. I like this, because like an hour show, nobody's in a rush to make a quick opinion. It's kind of like boring for most people, but they're just telling something. This happened, blah blah blah. I like the news. I like politics. I like to argue with everybody. It's just for my nature.
Well, I say debate, and I've got friends where we can't talk about. I'm sure you experience this too, where you can't talk about anything politically with them because they can't adopt a rational approach or method of conversation, just completely out of control.
Yeah, I have, like I said, with my aunt, there's a couple, like, there's a couple people, like, you can't give any props to Trump to certain people. They just go insane. And then there's certain people I can't say anything against Trump. They just go insane. And
Right.
it's just, but there's very few. For the most part, I find people just aren't interested. Like, they don't even give a like. They'll be like, "Yeah, I like
Right.
Trump," and then they don't know anything about Trump. They just,
Right.
he like yelled at somebody, right? I like that. I like that. But they don't know his policy. They're
Or
not interested.
they don't know anything about Biden, but they know he's not
100%.
Trump.
Yeah, they're like,
So
at least he's not Trump.
yeah,
But what do you know about either? Nothing. Like, you don't know
yeah,
anything about their policy, about what they have or have not done. A lot of people just are uninterested, but they still want to get in the mix. I say, if you have no interest, don't even fucking vote. Stay out of it.
right.
If you're gonna vote, do
Exactly.
some homework and then figure it out.
Totally, man. I
What do I
totally
know? What do I know?
100% agree with you. What do you like is in ways of like arts, culture, music, movies? Like, what are you following right now?
Um, ooh, I mean, have any good movies come out lately? I don't even know, man.
I just saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. Pretty good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never even heard of it. Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's not a Chinese movie, but it's got a bunch of Chinese actors in it. Michelle Yeoh. It's got a Ki Kwan. He played a short round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's all grown up now.
Oh
It's
yeah!
crazy.
Wow! Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
He plays like the dad in that. And then James Hong, who played Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China, is in it. And it's fantastic, man. It's kind of like sci-fi. I don't. It gets compared a lot to The Matrix. I definitely
I
saw a
know.
lot of
I
Matrix.
like The
Yeah, so if
Matrix.
you like The Matrix, yeah, pretty good.
With me, movies are hard. It's like I'm like hyperactive or something, and it's hard for me to like going to a movie is like I always said, it's like going to school. I got to sit here, pay attention, and be quiet. I don't know if I could do it. You know what I mean?
Totally opposite experience for me.
Yeah,
Movies are like church to me, like you're
yeah.
saying, hardcore shows are almost like a religious experience, much the same with me and movies.
Okay, yes. People like my girl, like she loves movies and watching series and stuff like that. And I could get into some, but for the most part, an hour into it, I'm like, I don't even, I could. I remember watching Game of Thrones and being like, "Yo, this is great. I love it." But I watched 5 seasons of this, like hour episodes a piece, and I still don't know one person's name. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm just like kind of like watching, just like looking at the background and like the music, like. But I like watching the shit. I can't retain the info, bro. It's weird for me.
Yeah. Any new bands you've heard of that you're kind of into?
In hardcore, there's a dope band called Gridiron that I'm really checking out. They're from Pennsylvania too.
Nice.
They just put out a new album. There's I was just listening to a good rapper. I forget his name. Shit, because I like rap too. I like some rap.
Nice.
But Gridiron, Carried by Six is another dope new band. Hold My Own, I like. As far as the hardcore scene,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm listening like on the bus on the way home. I was listening to Leonard Skinner, stuff like that.
Nice.
The
Very
classics,
good. Very good.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that,
man.
man.
Yeah, it's weird because I as I've gotten older and I realize that, my schedule has become increasingly more limited. It's hard for me to sit and watch a movie and stay focused on the movie, knowing in the back of my mind I've got all this other shit to do. And so
Yeah.
it's like that is a reality. And then, everybody is into streaming now, like the Netflix series and all those. And I'm like, I can't rationalize committing that much time to one thing, like I'm like a one and done guy. Like, I want to watch one movie and then I want to watch something else, like
Yeah.
it's hard for me to stay invested, but they really hook you now. Like they get all these great actors and these great storylines, special effects, and it's just so bombastic and you're just like sucked in.
Yeah, entertainment level as far as, on the screen might be at an all-time high. Stranger Things was just popping and I was watching those and I'm like, yo, this is good. I like it, but it's so long. I'm like, and this is like this one episode is like longer than a regular movie. How many episodes is it? How could I do this? Especially with my phone right there. Like, how could I concentrate? Like somebody just texted me and like, but it's
I mean, surely you've seen Sopranos though, right?
Yeah, that's classic. I remember. See, that was in a time when there was no competition though.
No,
and it was
on
on
HBO.
when it was on. You watched
Yeah.
it, Sunday at 9 o'clock or when it was. It had the old school TV network vibe. And if you wanted to watch it, you made time for it. And then if you didn't, you'd have to catch it on a rerun that you had like
Right.
one shot. But yeah, that was a whole different measure. But I'm glad I did get to watch that because that was like, that's, it's kind of like an origin story for the
Right.
modern day series. And it was just, it's so well done for the time.
I had a different experience watching Sopranos because I was overseas with the military whenever it was being aired, and we didn't have any sort of cable or anything like that in our base. And so they used to just send us the DVDs, and like the show wasn't even finished being aired. It was still like into the third season, so I only saw up to the third season, and then I rotated back to the world, and then I just I didn't have HBO after that, so I just never finished it. And I'm like, I've been sitting on it forever, and everybody's like, it was so damn good. Those first like 3 seasons, I got so invested in all those characters. Gandolfini is a fucking amazing actor.
He was so good.
They were all phenomenal, and I mean, they were all just like so good.
Did you ever finish it?
No, and see,
Wow.
I kind of want to restart it because I feel like so much time has lapsed since I've seen it that I don't really know if I remember fucking Christopher and Junior and all them, but I don't. There's so much shit that I'd probably have to go back and just rewatch.
I rewatch it maybe once every couple, every 2 years. I'll say, all right, it's time to redo that. And it's you know what? It's just like I remember in the beginning, like, man, I love Tony. This is great. And then the last time I watched, I was like, wow, Tony's a real piece of shit. Like
he kind of is.
Totally. And I'm like everybody on this show is a real piece of shit, except maybe one or two guys. Bacala was a nice guy. And I liked, as far as morals, the guy, the head of New York, who was a good like family man. He was kind of a good guy, but everybody was just like a piece of shit. But they did it in such a way where you had a fondness towards evil characters,
Right.
It was real well done. Just great. It's like interesting. It's violent, but it's funny. It's sad. It had everything going on, man.
And it's I don't know. I kind of like characters that are a little bit more morally gray because while Tony, because I remember one of the first episodes where it was like Tony is like fucking some girl in his back office. I'm like, you piece of shit. I'm like, you could have fucking wife, like I was like,
yeah,
all right. But you think about like how realistic is that? How many people that we may view as like upstanding model citizens and whatnot have their own vices and own shit that they got going on, but our perception of reality is that they're really great people.
Tony would he'll kill his friend of his if he thinks it's a threat, but he'll like mourn over a duck. It was it's real. It's pretty interesting. Like crazy character. But then when you looked into his childhood, when he threw hints, you realize, this is damaged goods.
See, I don't know if I got that far yet. I'll have to get into it. What do you got going on with the band? Are you guys going to be touring? You guys going to be recording?
We're supposed to tour in October with H2O in Europe.
Shit.
Yeah, and maybe like 3 weeks, maybe. I'm pretty sure it starts in London and ends somewhere, I think, in Belgium or something. But,
shit.
The dates are just being kind of put together now, maybe, So
you like Europe?
Yeah, I like Europe. It's this kind of music is strong there. It's organized. They have they have like the foundation for bands like us to tour and survive. And in America, it's hard for bands like us. You're like on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Over there, these bands are taken just as serious as the next band.
And their scene is like super supportive, like you got guides and like people drive you around and like, let me show you where all the places to stay and,
No, you go there and it's like, boom, it's like, this is your itinerary. You're going to go to Berlin. You're going to eat at 6:00. You're going to do a sound check at 7:30. You're going to play at 9 and bus call will be at 2:30 a.m. And then you're going to go here. And, it's like, and here it's kind of like, figure it out. You want a tour? Go ahead, book your tour. Like, It's just
Yeah.
it's much different.
DIY to a T, you know?
Yeah, and it's America though. Like you want to do something, yeah, we're not stopping you, but we're not
Right.
gonna help you either. Figure it out.
Yeah,
You know?
that's kind of the balance that we have here.
Yeah, it's great. America's great because you could really do shit here. You could like you want like like I said, I got 2 record labels. I do a podcast. You do a pod. You could just and who did we have to ask for this? Nobody. We just
Dude, drop your podcast.
we had the desire.
Plug your podcast.
Post American podcast, and I've been doing it for probably like since 2014.
Oh wow.
But we
I saw a few of the videos on Instagram and I wasn't 100%. I was like, is this the guy that's coming on my show? I was like, should I ask him about the podcast? And I was like, oh, it is him. Cool. Yeah. So awesome.
Post America podcast, and I just put them out randomly now because it's kind of at my convenience because I do work full time and I have all kinds of I just had a kid of like 5 months ago, and but I still love doing it, and we just released one yesterday. And,
oh, nice. What do you tackle?
It's mostly we throughout the years we definitely delve into politics a lot because we like politics, but the most of it is around music, our kind of music, and I'll have guests on, all types of guests. And yesterday we released one with the singer of that band I just mentioned, Gridiron, because they just put out a new album.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah, but I had John Joseph on too, like the guy you had on. We were talking about like Sopranos stuff. One of my favorite ones I did was with C from Bronx Tale. Remember Bronx Tale?
Oh yeah.
Remember C?
That's the kid, right?
Yeah.
I interviewed him. Yeah. Wasn't he on the Sopranos too?
He was. He was
one of the 2 young kids. Yeah,
yep.
like in the first or second season. Yeah.
Yeah,
he came on your show.
Yeah, he was a fun
nice.
one to do because I love the Sopranos and I love the Bronx Tale, and I had him on during like an anniversary of the Bronx Tale, and he kind of gave me the scoop on the Charles Palminteri, Sonny. He said he kind of disowned him, and he hasn't been invited to any of the anniversaries because he got in trouble with the law. I don't know if you remember. Like,
no, I've never heard this.
Yeah, he actually did time. Like he was involved in a robbery, and then an off-duty cop came out and shot at them, and the guy he was with shot back and killed the cop like years ago. And so he did like he was in jail.
I think I may have heard something about that. Yeah, that's fucking wild.
But he's like on a path of like reconciliation. He's sober and he's trying to do the right thing since he's been out. So it was good to hear from him. And I'll talk to anybody, some professional wrestlers like WWE guys. But almost always some people related to the scene that I'm in because that's
sure, yeah, and like that's kind of a nice crossing of cultures that I've been able to do here is we have the political commentary, but then we'll do like the cultural stuff. I mean, some of the guests that I've had, we've never even talked about politics, never scratched the surface, didn't matter, and like I kind of wish, hey, if somebody else left and right has a different opinion than you, don't fly off the handle if they, if it's not what you believe, like. Yeah,
totally. And I'm glad you brought it up because I love talking about that stuff. And most people either have no interest in it or they don't want to get, offend somebody. Like, I'm in a hardcore band. Like I'm supposed to offend, but at the same time, it's like, I got no love for, if you love Trump, and I say something that offends you, come on, get over it. It's a politician. If you love Biden and I said something that offends you, come on. I'm not lying about these people. You know what I mean? It's just like they're so far apart of people that we should be interested in defending. If they did something good, we should definitely have the balls to admit. If they did something bad, though, crucify them. Fuck them all, man.
Fuck them.
Fuck these people.
Draw and quarter those motherfuckers. Yeah. Don't shut me down, YouTube. All right.
Yeah, for real.
Cool. Well, Richie, dude, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I'm going to post all the links to Wisdom and Chains and to your podcast in the comment section. So everybody go follow Richie, go support all his endeavors, all his music. That would be fucking awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said before, click on that like button, click on the subscribe button, click on the little bell for notifications, comment, share, do all that. Richie from Wisdom and Chains, I'd love to have you back, man. Please, anytime.
No, I appreciate it, man. A lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Namaste. God bless. Be good.